All right, good morning, everyone. It is Saturday. We are live today. I got James here from Stellar Housing Solutions and John Deconstructing Dreams. So, morning, fellas.
Good morning.
Morning.
Yeah, so it's been a while, James. Maybe it's probably 6, 7 months. So maybe quickly fill my audience in what you've been working on, what's your, I guess, strategy in real estate, and how's everything going?
Yeah, absolutely. I started in real estate maybe 3 years ago. By my first house hack it was a triplex in New Jersey, where I'm from, and then I think about a year and a half after that, I purchased a duplex. But along the way, I was doing what was called midterm rentals, which is furnished monthly rentals. And then I had a friend of mine that I met up at a real estate meetup who also started to get into midterm rentals. And then we just formed a company called Stellar Housing Solutions. I actually have my logo right here. And now to this day, present day, we have 20 active midterm rentals in our portfolio. Yeah, and I still have some rentals that are like long term as well that eventually I'll convert to midterm. But yeah, that's pretty much my story. I have a full time W-2, so I'm doing all this on the side while working as like a healthcare professional. But yeah, we've just been scaling and just tidying up our operations. We hired like a virtual assistant and stuff, so we're kind of just on our way, just doing a lot of cool things.
Awesome, man. That's why I also want to get John on here because John's doing the short-term rental space. So you got to check out his YouTube channel, Deconstructing Dreams. He has this whole theme going on too for his place. I think that's very unique. But I think John can learn a lot from what you're doing, James. I think I was telling him also before we started. You guys have like branding, right? Like you guys leave things in the units now for the guests and everything.
Yeah, so I think it's common in the short term rental space where you're trying to, you know, put all your brand out there, right? Because it's an experience and you want repeat guests. And in the midterm rental space, you don't always see that as much, but there is opportunities for you to do that. So we'll do cool things like really good, thorough, like welcome gifts, where we actually have our own hot sauce that we have white labeled, has our logo, a QR code that takes them to our website, and just kind of um, putting our name out there so that in the case that they know someone else that needs temporary housing, right, our name Stellar Housing just keeps showing up in their heads, including even like we put signs everywhere, by like the toilet, the sinks, the laundry machines, on the fridge here and there. So being able to create something sticky through like our branding inside like our units just allows us to get not necessarily repeat clients, but a lot of referrals at the end of the day. So yeah, so that's what we kind of focus on that, when we can.
I know for the midterm space, people typically stay a little bit longer. And like John, you're doing more short. Like, what is the average stay for yours, John?
Probably 2 to 3 days.
So do you do anything like that? Like leave, any items or maybe gift baskets for the guests?
I do have drinks in the fridge. I've got filtered water in the fridge. I've got snacks in a basket on the countertop. So, I do have some stuff that's ready to go for them because a lot of my folks are coming from Southern California. And, after a long drive, they're ready to, have a snack, have a drink, whatever, before they, you know, typically they stop in, get unpacked a little bit, and then take off for dinner. But in the meantime, at least they can have a little snack if the kids are getting irritated or whatever. They've got something available there.
I haven't talked to James in a while, so I kind of also want to maybe touch on how is the short-term rental or mid-term rental space in his area? Has he noticed a big decline or how is his bookings going?
Oh, we're 100% occupied right now. You can't book us. And that's the problem sometimes. The good problem in the midterm rental space, where right now the longest booking that I have is 2.5 years. So that one unit that's there, like it's booked until December 31st, 2026. Because she just extended again for like another year and a half.
Wow.
which is, so I mean, we're talking about in the short-term rental space, occupancy rate, vacancy rate, those are things that are important, right? And like when you're analyzing a deal, trying to figure out performance, that's like a number that's really important for you when you're analyzing and underwriting, right? But like in the midterm rental space, an occupancy rate is extremely hard to predict because you could have outliers. Like I had this 2.5 year booking, it just messes everything up, right? But I also have 1 month stays. But I have people that are staying for 45 days, 60 days, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 months, right? And so, especially with us, with having 20 plus units, the occupancy rates are just kind of crazy. But yeah, I mean, we don't have any issues filling our units. And what's kind of interesting is compared to like the short-term rental space, sometimes I feel like a lot of like the short-term rental stuff is like competition. So John, if you have multiple Airbnbs in like the same local area, you're kind of like competing against your own listings or like other people, right?
Sure.
For us, even though we've like scaled in like a local market, we actually get more leads because of that. It's kind of crazy where now, if there's a guest that's searching online, whether it's through Airbnb, VRBO, Furnish Finder, wherever, we have multiple listings that are showing up on page one of search. So then it's another way for, so then now there's a higher chance of them messaging us, just because we have so many units. Um, so now we have even more leads than we can even house. I checked our platform, like our database, and we have 51 leads, and I can't fill all of them. And like some of them, they're not always like super hot leads or warm leads, but these are all people that manually reached out to us, right? So what I've done to try to offset the inability to house these people is to create like a local community with other midterm rental operators in our area. And now we have this big WhatsApp group chat and have like my own separate database of all of their listings. So whenever we get any leads or people that inquire that we can't fill, now we're trying to refer them out. We'll just collect like a small referral fee, and in return they'll also refer people to us too. So now not only am I listed on all the OTAs, but now I'm getting leads from people from my own little local market. So it's like a brand new OTA, like lead funnel that comes. So then it's kind of crazy how like for us, as we've scaled, we have even more leads and our units are always occupied and we're not able to house everyone. So that concept of, in the midterm rental space, when we try to collaborate, it just gets crazier and crazier.
Don't you end up being more like a preferred vendor for the insurance people and the medical people that are all trying to house their different clients because you've got so many different options for them?
Yeah, exactly. And so one of our focuses that we want to try to move towards is to get like these corporate bookings, right? Or contracts. If I can secure like a multi-year contract and they're going to pay us every single month like a set amount, and they just put their workers in there, their employees or whoever, that's like almost like, it's not necessarily passive income, but you have like guaranteed income. And these are people that are coming in not from the OTAs. So I have like, so many different opportunities to leverage like an entire portfolio. And actually, John, you know what's even crazier? So like I work a full-time W2 job, right? And I can be on my phone and text, but I can't make any phone calls. So I actually can't really make phone calls to corporate companies because I work like a 9 to 5, and a lot of
Right.
these companies are open 9 to 5, right? But in the midterm rental space, there's a lot of people that just collaborate with each other and have friends that do a lot of insurance relocation referrals and stuff like that's part of like their business. So they're just picking up phone calls, trying to snag corporate contracts and stuff. So I have them making phone calls for me, right? So like they're getting
Wonderful.
practice, calling as many people to learn, right, and get experience. Um, and they're able to fill a need that I have. And along the way, we'll kind of figure out some type of structure where they could get a piece of the pie. They can make some money, we can make some money, and it's just like a collaborative experience, and everyone's is like motivated and like on the same page. So it's pretty
Sounds like
cool.
your stuff is almost running more like a long term because you've got the longer stays going on, but at a higher rate.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Well, John, you also just posted, I believe it was on Facebook maybe. Did you have like your best month or something recently or
I
last month?
did. I had a record high month for this month that I hit $7,500 in revenue, and if I hadn't spent a little extra with doing some VR goggles and some painting and what have you, I would have been even higher in the profit. But that still put me at about 2,700 worth of profit. So I'm
So
trying to do like what you're doing with branding. I'm trying to paint my logo on my retaining wall in the backyard and using VR goggles to do that. So I've been doing a little bit of different testing. And yesterday I was actually downstairs doing some testing on a wall that's going to get redone. So I didn't want to do it on the retaining wall until I figured out if it was going to work or not. And it actually worked out pretty well. It does kind of move in the VR goggles, but I was able to compensate really well. So next time I have an opening, I will probably take a day off and actually go over and paint the logo on the retaining wall. So it's pretty cool stuff, pretty fun. Trying to create those Instagram moments so that you get that free marketing.
did you knock anything over this past time painting? What trying to
No,
use?
no, I, I that was playing games. This was actual
Uh,
work.
all right. Well, like I mentioned, John does have his YouTube channel, so there it is in the chat. So go please check it out, subscribe. Also, this is how you can connect with James. There's his Instagram link and his Instagram link for the Stellar Housing Solutions. But Flavio does have a question. Flavio is in Grandview, Washington, but he says, James, what kind of people stay on your properties? Are you close to a hospital?
Yeah, so this is a really, really good question. And along the way, I'm always surprised by the types of people that'll stay in our hospital, right? Or in our units rather. Yes, we are close to hospitals. So I'm in northern New Jersey, not necessarily in a super urban area, but I'm right next to New York City. Right. So just being with the proximity to New York City, there's a lot of people coming in and out of New York City, and a lot of people that want to be in New Jersey and close to New York City too. So we're mostly in suburbs, maybe a little bit urban suburbs ish. So there's a lot of people coming through. And initially, our goal was, hey, let's try to target these travel medical professionals. So let's strategically have units in areas that where there are multiple hospitals, right? So you can tap into two, three, four, five hospitals within like a certain driving distance to kind of cast your net wide, right? Now, we do get plenty of travel medical professionals, whether they're here for nursing or radiology or physical therapists, doctors, medical students, residents, and all that stuff. But we've had way more people that were not travel medical professionals. And so we have a ton of people that are here for very transient needs. So, like, let's say if they're relocating to the area, and they don't know exactly where they want to live yet, they'll actually become midterm rental tenants or guests in different areas. So we even have someone who stayed with us 3 times because they wanted to. We had a unit somewhere up north, and then somewhere a little bit more central, and then a little bit more south, right? So we have people that are trying to get to know the area before they finally buy, and even on the buying side, there are people that are selling their homes and then buying like another property, but they're renovating. So before the renovations are complete, instead of staying in a hotel or extended stay hotel, they're staying in a home. And some of these people are doing major renovations. And as you know, like renovations always take way longer than anticipated. So we get a ton of people that are renovating their homes. You also get the insurance relocation stays where the homeowners had their property severely damaged. So now their insurance is covering for all the reconstruction. and they have a portion of their homeowners insurance that'll pay for housing specifically. But yeah, with a lot of people that are in between housing, trying to explore the area before they buy or even after they bought and they're renovating. And then you also have a lot of people that are here specifically for work, all different types of industries, whether it's construction, whether it's tech or marketing, the most random things. And like even people that are coming in internationally too, specifically for work or internationally, specifically just to relocate due to business or whatever it may be. Um, and yeah, it's just we also get like professional athletes too. So even I'm discovering there's all these professional teams that I never knew that even existed. Like New York City has like a women's professional hockey league, but they want to stay in New Jersey because a lot of like the training facilities are in New Jersey. The New York Giants and Nets are also in New Jersey too. So training camp and all that stuff. So there's a ton of people that just need temporary homes where it doesn't make sense for them to sign a year-long lease, right? Which is kind of normal. It's better that they could have something more flexible. So many different types of people. It's kind of crazy.
We got Philip here. Thanks for tuning in. I recall Philip. He's from Australia, so he says, or he's in Australia. He says, "I own my home. I watched this stream, thinking how can invest or expand into maybe buying a new property." Hmm. Okay. Like in your market, Philip, or you're looking to invest remotely? But these are John and James are doing some strategies to generate more income. So, which is great because some markets, long-term rentals just don't make sense as far as the cash flow. So these two individuals are utilizing what markets they're in and what kind of clientele they have and trying to generate more cash. And that's kind of John's story. So John, maybe touch on, like you said, you're closer to retirement or you want to retire and you're kind of forcing the cash flow issue. And that's why you're doing short-term rentals, right?
Yeah, the having had a few mistakes in my life with divorces and what have you, I've lost the ability to have the time to compound the interest in a normal 401k type of situation. And I've always pretty much been in the real estate game, more managing properties for my parents and what have you. But I got into doing a house hack burr type of situation myself, and that was about 2012. And then a couple of years ago, I pulled money out of the house hack and made it where I still had enough rental income coming in to pay the PITI, which is your principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, and was able to pull enough money to purchase another property, and that's the one that I'm doing for the short-term rental. But that one has always been a long-term play because there's an upstairs and a downstairs. So the upstairs I set up as a three-bedroom, two-bath, and that's what's been an Airbnb currently. And I'm working with the city right now to try to get ADU zoning so I can turn the downstairs into another one-bedroom, one-bath, which I could technically do without getting the ADU zoning, but the equity play on that is much higher if I get the zoning properly and get it all permitted. So I'm trying to push much harder with the play. However, I did look at if I had to pivot, I could still do a long term play over there. It really wouldn't make any money. It's more of a break even until I get the downstairs worked out. But the upstairs would actually break even on its own as a long term play. But the short term play, um, last year I made a little over $1,000 a month in profit, and so far this year I'm looking at about 1,700 a month in profit. So certainly making some good strides towards improving the property and getting more bookings.
Nice. Let's see. Philip says, I was gifted my home by family, but it's risky getting a mortgage on a new property while I own mine in full. Maybe clarify. What do you like risky? you don't want to take on that risk, or just where you currently live, taking on mortgages have a higher risk or something? Yeah, maybe clarify that a little bit. Flavio, out of state investing is getting popular. Is something on your mind? Yeah. So, James, is that are you guys looking to maybe expand midterm rentals in other markets, or you're kind of just focusing your area?
So right now we're just focusing in our area because I feel like if you're able to do something in your own backyard, that's probably the best and easiest way to do things. We are in a high cost of living area, right? So it kind of deters a lot of people, and for that reason, a lot of people from New Jersey will invest out of state. But if you could figure out ways to make additional income, and you're also thinking of how can I add value, right? Um, you can definitely figure out ways to make the numbers work. Let's say if you're going to buy a property and you know that you can convert a dining room into like a bedroom, or a den into a bedroom, and all of a sudden now the value of your property is going to go up a lot higher, and you can collect even more rent, right? And like looking at it in as many different viewpoints as possible and being flexible is gonna like let allow things to work. And so we've been just kind of focusing in New Jersey, but I'm very much like a systems guy and operations. So I have standing operating procedures, everything is systemized, I have templates and automations and things to make things as easy as possible. And um, one of my goals was to have such a good system here in Jersey that once everything's all kind of figured out, I have my boots on the ground, I can anticipate a lot of things, I can take that same system and just go anywhere else out of state. I just have to find the people to do the things that I need, to get done. So for us, we're just focusing on New Jersey because the more that we scale, we've actually realized that things actually get a lot easier and cheaper for us too. And we're able to just make more money, and we just have more opportunities. But for us, long term, we could totally go out of state and just implement the same systems. And so one thing that we're doing is we have this brand new unit that's maybe like an hour south of us. So I'm trying to treat it like an out of state property, trying to have separate boots on the ground for me. Um, and once that is kind of like running by itself, not necessarily by itself, but once I have those systems set up and it's strong, literally have no reason why I can't invest out of state, right? Because it's just systems at the end of the day. And that's how I kind of look at things.
James, are you doing arbitrage or do you own the properties?
So we arbitrage, and we also co-host, which is just essentially you're just managing someone else's midterm short-term rental for like a fee.
Now, you touched on arbitrage, owning them, co-hosts. I know you have a school platform that you just started. Is that something that if people join, that you cover all of those type of things, strategies, or is it mainly just the kind of the traditional midterm rentals things they can learn from there?
So we cover all of that: how to get co-hosting clients, how to co-host, how to get arbitrage units, how to pitch to landlords, how to analyze properties, how to literally do everything from A to Z. Because like if I have gone through the pathway of buying, co-hosting, and arbitrage, it's very easy for me to just tell other people and guide other people. And I'm co-hosting that school group community with another friend of mine who started out in the short-term rental space out in Southern California. His name is Alan Dwan. Started out in the short-term rental space doing arbitrage, and then he pivoted into midterm rentals. So now he's doing both midterm and short-term. Has 30 plus units, and has more of a focus on co-hosting. But he also owns like an Airbnb somewhere out of state. So um, we talk about everything, whether it's short-term, midterm, co-hosting, arbitrage, whatever it is, because we have like that experience.
So I just put the school community link in the chat. So if anyone wants to go check it out, join. Is there a cost for it, James?
No, it's free. It's just free education. And it's like free community, and we've been getting more people that are mid-tier operators where they already have a handful of units, and like the journey is lonely, right? But if you can connect with other people that are doing the same things, and you are like-minded, and you're running into the same problems or the same issues, you can have like these masterminds and these Q&A sessions to just help each other out and to like connect. So it's 100% free. Eventually along the way, maybe we'll try to work on figuring out ways to do a little bit of monetizing here and there. But our goal is always to provide free education, and to if we get to a point where we can monetize a few things, it would be like we would have provided so much value that and the cost would be so low, that hopefully people would kind of want to pay for things. But the bulk of it is always going to be free no matter what.
Yeah, everyone should go check it out, see what it's all about. I believe Jen, I'm not sure if she's here. I think I sent her the link, so she joined. She has short-term rentals out in Texas. Hey, what's up, Big Andy? Andy's tuning in. Jack tuned in, so morning, Jack. Philip says, yeah, he works full times. I was to invest in, I would have to, use my property as collateral. You guys own multiple properties. You would like to know how to do it. Um, I'm not sure in Australia, or how the DSCR lending, asset-based lending, those type of things work for people outside of the country. But those are some ways people get financing for properties not associated with their like personal credit or bank state or their W-2 and whatnot. It's just basically credit score and basically um, lent on the value of the property as far as the rental income and whatnot. So there is ways around it. I'm just not sure how being in Australia is going to affect things, and if you're looking to invest in Australia or try to invest in the States. But so John, I know that is this something maybe when you do retire, or you think you're gonna maybe try to lean more towards midterm rental, where it's maybe a little more hands off, or you gonna stick with the short term rental side of things?
Well, the short term rental is a lot more headache by far. It's a lot more work. I mean, there's times after working a 15-hour day, I've had to run over and show a guest how to use the hot tub because they just couldn't figure it out, and they have gone in trying to figure it out and screwed up the program. So, there's always that type of thing, and that's kind of why I haven't really looked at the out of state investing, because I want to have that ability to go to the property and, even if it's just for a turn, to be able to do basically a perfection inspection and make sure that it's cleaned properly and everything is in its proper place and everything is set up the way I want it set up. That way the guest is having the best experience. You can't really do that at a distance. And nobody has the passion that you have for your own business and your own guests. So, when you're dealing with cleaners and handymen and all of that type of thing, they're just not going to care the same way that you do. So that's why I like doing something a little closer. So I'm not sure if I'll stay in short term once I retire, because me and my wife would like to do some traveling, being as she's from Vietnam. I'm sure we'll spend a good portion of the year there and be able to enjoy her uh, lifestyle as well over in Vietnam. Her and her sister still have a house over there, so it really doesn't cost us much to go and enjoy being in Ho Chi Minh City. So, as far as Philip's questions there, I would suggest, just like anywhere, you probably want to start with your foundation and make sure that you've got a budget. You know, do the low hanging fruit of cutting things out of your budget that you really don't need. Start gaining skills so you can get better positions and make more money, and do house hacking to reduce your biggest expense, get rid of those high dollar car payments, and drive paid off vehicles, and maybe deal with a few repairs here and there, but that's much less expensive than a monthly car payment, and that'll get you where your credit score gets higher, lowers your debt to income ratio. Do some house hacking so you're paying off that house, because you could easily go in and get some type of mortgage against a paid off house so that you can get the money to purchase additional houses. Again, like Mark was saying, I don't know how Australia works, but that's how we would do it here in the States. So, I'm sure there's some differences, but, without having any knowledge of Australia, that's the best advice I can give you.
Yeah, like Philip, like John also mentioned it in one of your earlier comments, Philip. It looks like, from what I'm reading, it sounds like you own a home, maybe outright, like it was gifted to you.
Yeah, I was
So
thinking.
possibly, hopefully you have a low budget as far, you have your probably your biggest living expense gone in a sense because you have a home gifted to you. So it's definitely about, like John is saying, building up reserves or learning how to maybe increase your income so that you have the down payments for other properties and whatnot. Some people do. I don't know, like same thing with Austria. I'm not sure what the rules are, but people use lines of credits in the states. They take out home equity lines of credit to use that to get started. So there is different ways. Just I'm not sure. I don't know if there's anyone in Australia out on the social media or YouTube that is maybe doing it, but those are all great questions, and maybe I can find someone in Australia investing. Um, James, for people, I think the biggest struggle I see is, you and John have been doing it for a while, so you guys can kind of weather maybe some of the ups and downs of the markets right now, and you guys have been doing it. So I think for like the new people trying to get into this space now, what are probably the biggest struggles that is probably preventing them from wanting to continue?
Hmm. I can definitely say a lot of the times when things are getting hard, you have to see if you have community and who is around you that are guiding you and trying to help you with additional options in terms of, let's say if you have an issue and you don't know what to do, probably going to try to Google things, and you're also going to like start panicking, right? um, it's interesting because I know people in my life who have purchased like an investment property. It didn't go well for them, or even if things are actually going well for them now, they're still getting out because their core people around them are not really supporting them. And I think that's like the number one thing where, they say like, you're the average of the five people, right, that you're closest with. And like, that's really true. And I kind of alluded to earlier where, the journey feels really lonely. And so like community is really important. And if I always say, even I wanted to tell Philip too, you got to go to real estate investing meetups. Like that's where people are that are local to you, that have a similar mindset, that have been in your shoes, that have had 10 times as many problems as you've probably had, that have had this same similar scenario that you're in and have gone through that process. So if you're able to tap into those people and build relationships with other investors, they're the ones that's going to be able to give you the entire roadmap, or the way to navigate everything. Whether it's how to invest out of state, how do I use my primary home to buy other investment properties, how to finance everything, right? So um, I think a lot of people that struggle end up struggling because they're trying to do it on their own, and our ability to even just come on streams like this, right? Sometimes if you're not in a position to be actively investing, but if you're on a stream like this and now your cup is being filled because there's just a lot of really good energy and there's a lot of positivity, right? Those things really make a difference for our mindset and our own mental health. And that is what's going to help us to overcome a lot of those obstacles and challenges in order to like keep going and not, to give up when things get hard.
I
Yeah.
completely agree with James. The mindset is incredibly important. You know, you, there's so much on YouTube that's just free, and you're able to explore different strategies and figure out different things that you're connecting with more, and be able to explore some of those different strategies so that you can find something that's actually going to work out for yourself. And if you're constantly learning while you're building up, your credit or your reserves, or whatever you're trying to build up so that you can purchase more properties, you're way ahead. I mean, we just had the event in Las Vegas with one rental at a time, and that was fantastic. That was my first time meeting Mark, and we came good friends from there, and
Oh,
I
hold
don't know if
on,
he's going
man.
to agree with that or not because I don't really care for Crocs, but I don't hold it against him, wearing those ugly shoes. But we certainly, have started a pretty good friendship here, and I really appreciate everything that happened at the event, being able to meet basically some of my heroes that I listen to every single day, and having that mindset, being able to change, and you know getting the poor influences out of your life from different friends or associations that you might have in your personal life is incredibly important because you want that positive motivation going forward, and it maintains the discipline so you can keep going even when times are a little rougher. You see so much negative press, saying, oh, Airbnb and bust and all this kind of stuff. And I'm sorry, but I don't really worry about that kind of stuff because I figure if I'm in the top 10%, I don't care what the bottom 10% is doing. If they're leaving and folding up and whatever, they probably shouldn't have been in the marketplace in the first place because they're just going after the easy money. They're not real operators, and they haven't put in the time and the effort to really learn and care about their guests and do all the things to keep them coming back. So, those people are probably hurting the business more than helping it. So I'm happy to see them leave, and I'm more than happy to take on those guests that aren't going there anymore. So I'm happy to see that. The I love doing the strategy. Of course, there's always going to be those few guests that are difficult to deal with, but for the most part, I have very fantastic people coming, and they all treat the property well, and they clean up after themselves, and you know it's a pretty pleasurable experience to be at work and get a notification that I just made another $1,000 today on top of my W-2 income. So that's always really nice.
Before I get to Lane's comment or Andy's comment, I should say, and then Flavio's, Philip, if you're still here, like they both, like James and John, kind of both touched on is, get around the community, and I've seen you here, in the lives multiple times. So, if you do like kind of what we talk about here and the people that are in the chats and whatnot, and you feel this is a good community for you, check out the school community, Michael Zuber's One Rental at a Time community. I put it in the comments. It's it is $20 a month, but you're not committed for like a year or anything. You can do it month to month. You can come check it out. You can see if it's what you like, and people can help you. But it's a great community to be around. And you can, like I said, even James' one is free. You can get a lot of information there. But Big Andy does say, I agree with what John is saying about nobody has your dreams and mindset. Just had this conversation at 3 a.m. this morning, clearing up a tree to get the road open. Yeah. Hey, aloha. Hey, Hey, Rad. He's in the school community. Oh, he's a new member in the school community. So thanks for tuning in. But Flavio says, I always thinking of doing short or midterm, but his RDNA is only 45% occupancy is something that still work at that percentage. So he's in Grandview, Washington. What's your thoughts on that, James?
Where specifically in Washington is he? Grandview?
Yeah, Grandview.
How far from Seattle? I guess.
I think he's out in the sticks, but I I don't know.
Grandview is a little bit of a smaller community. It would be outside of Seattle, I believe. Um, if you can get a higher occupancy rate, I certainly achieved what was much higher than what AirDNA was saying. When I was studying, it was saying probably in the 50% range, and I've been running at least 70% occupancy, and there's a lot of folks that like to flex saying, well, my short-term rental is getting 95 or 100% occupancy. And quite frankly, there's a lot of times when I think, if you're getting 100% occupancy, are you leaving money on the table because you're not pricing it properly? If you've got that high of occupancy, you could certainly be getting a little bit more for your nightly rate and probably reducing some expenses because you don't have as much wear and tear on your property. You don't have as much cleaning to deal with and, replacing items and things like that. So, I don't really want 100% occupancy because then I'm not pricing to my best ability to, keep the property at a high rate. On the other hand, you don't want to price too low either because then you get the terrible guests that it always seems like the ones that get the lowest rates are also the ones that complain the most and give the worst reviews. So, have a threshold that you don't go below so that you're not getting those people. Make sure that you're at least doing a 2 night minimum on weekends to try to avoid the party people. You might go for the single night during the week, but I would definitely stay away from it on the weekends because you don't want the party people to come in and cause problems for you. But I wouldn't be really that scared about Airbnb saying that it's a 45% occupancy because again, be the best at what you do. Don't go for the average. Okay, average is for beginners. Okay, if you're going to go into this, go in the mindset that you are going to be the best at this. um, I personally enjoy doing themes. I think it brings in more customers because I don't want to be like a motel, which is nice but boring. So, the nicest motels, I don't want to take pictures and, do something on Instagram or Facebook or whatever and say, oh, look how cool this is, because it's kind of boring. However, at the Airbnb, I do different themes in each bedroom where one room's got bears, another room's got wolves, another room's got eagles. I'm trying to do a lot of different things. It's more of an outdoorsy type of theme for my guests, and they don't get that type of thing when they're at their home or in a hotel. So I think that really helps bring in more customers as well as hot tubs are really good for bringing in guests as well.
I'm gonna say, Flavio, that at least in terms of doing like market analysis, if you're using tools like AirDNA, Price Labs, things like that, it's hard to find what a true occupancy and even like income potential is for the mid-term rental space, because not those are specific to Airbnb bookings and I guess VRBO bookings, right? But I have a ton of bookings that are not on those platforms, or sometimes they'll start on Airbnb and we'll take them off platform because they don't have to pay Airbnb like the Airbnb fees and all these additional taxes if they just book direct right with us, so they can save money and we can even upcharge so we can even make even more. And there's different platforms and ways that we're getting bookings that the midterm rental dynamic pricing, like those studies and data, it's just not really accurate. It makes it a little bit harder. I know Price Labs has like a feature where you can streamline it down to only show listings that are true midterm rentals, where like the minimum stay is 28 days or longer. And I think Mashvisor also has something, but Mashvisor is kind of expensive. I believe with Price Labs, it's $10 to generate like two reports or something like that. So that's pretty like cost effective. But I think in terms of like will something still work at like a specific percentage, at the end of the day, like I know people that are, I have a good friend of mine, all he does is he does Airbnbs in the sticks, in rural areas, and he crushes it. Like he 2x's 3x's all the other competition, because like John says, he's doing themes, he's designing it in a spectacular way, in like a smart and cost effective way too, right? Accent walls and making sure you have a whole bunch of amenities and making it look really nice, right? And he's absolutely crushing it in the sticks. You could also have places in really nice areas too, single family houses, multifamily. It literally doesn't matter. And in the midterm rental space, it can literally work. You know, there's one way where you can sit and wait on the OTAs and leads for it to come to you. But the thing that's different about midterm rentals is you have an opportunity to go and seek uh, occupants too. Whether you're picking up, and a lot of it comes down to like picking up the phone and connecting with other companies, you know, trying to, if you can house employees, are there construction workers in the area, right? So like one popular thing in the midterm rental space is that you go to extended stay hotels and see if you can find out of state license plates on construction vehicles, right? So they're probably working on a big project where there's like a big team, and you can pick up the phone call and call and say, hey, you know, like I have a single family house, even in a nice area, but somewhere local. How many guys do you have? If you're renting two to three hotel rooms, right? That's a lot of money versus renting just like one property, right? That's maybe a 2, 3, 4 bedroom. So there's a lot of different ways that you can just go out and seek mid-terminal guests, and so that's why like thinking it just using an occupancy rate in the mid-terminal space is not something that I view heavily, but it's more of like if you have the ability and the desire to go and try to fill your units under your control, right, versus relying on these platforms that can actually just ban you and suspend your listings, right? I don't know, John, if you've had issues with Airbnb not being on your side, but air
Yes.
cover, like it's hard. And so being able to be in control and go after your own leads is what can change the game for you, because you'll be doing things that the average person doesn't want to do, right? Like the average person doesn't want to do what John does and have all these themed out Airbnbs, 2 to 3 night minimums, constant turnover in hospitality, it's service industry, right? Like people don't want to do what John does, and but this is why John's cash flowing and doing well, because he's willing to put in the time and the work. And so it's the same in the midterm rental space. It just looks a little bit different. But yeah, I mean, midterm rentals will literally work in the middle of nowhere and also in up to like even urban environments in all types of like housing.
Yeah, Philip, to your kind of point, the places you invest in sound really nice. So I think, like James was saying, both of James and John have properties that probably wouldn't cash flow well as a long-term rental, but because they are in a nicer neighborhood, maybe, or in a higher price point market. So what they're doing is they're turning these properties into better cash flow properties by utilizing short-term rental or mid-term rental. But also, to their point, they are going kind of above and beyond and making their products unique. And I think that's where a lot of people that entered this space have faced trouble in the past maybe couple years, where they bought something that before, when they were doing short-term rental, you could just put anything out there and people were staying there. But now you kind of have to have a little niche or be unique to your market, and that's why James and John are putting out gift baskets and doing different things, and making it stand out and making their product kind of a theme in a sense. So there is ways to work around it, Philip, but I think going back to James and John's point, is getting in the right communities to figure out the best strategy for yourself. So definitely they do more work than someone who has a long-term rental,
By
but
far.
yeah, but their cash is a lot higher. Their cash return is a lot higher. So it is somewhat of a trade-off. So it's really how hands-on you want to be also.
James, what's a average housing going for in your area for, say, a 3 bedroom, 2 bath?
So we have 3 bedroom, 2 bath. So it all depends on like the market. So we're in A class, B class, and C class markets too. And everything in terms of like the long term rents, if you want to compare it against long term rents, it varies widely. Um, for
I'm talking
example,
purchase price.
oh, purchase price.
Yes.
Man, because we're also in A, B, and C class areas, but you
Sure.
can have it could be like a single family that's like $500,000-600,000 that needs a ton of work, or 3 bed 2 bath single family, up to like, I mean, right now we're co-hosting a new construction that's probably worth like $2 million, right? So when it comes to like single family purchase prices, I would say in my area, minimum 500-600, if not like 700, just for like your regular rinky dink, still needs renovation single family house.
Yeah,
But here's the thing, like,
my area is about 600,000 for average, and you can find 400,000 homes, but those are small, they're old, they're run down, so they're going to need some significant work. But the average here is about 600,000, and we also have, you know, very high end areas that are, several $1 million worth. But we also have the slum areas that you can pick up mobile homes for $100,000, but that doesn't include the space rent.
mhm. I think there's like a big misconception that you always need to be in like these really nice areas. If you were in a place that was more sketchy, I think Philip mentioned that there's some poor, sketchy neighborhoods, right? And what areas do we invest in? You can make a killing in these sketchy neighborhoods, right? And sometimes it depends on like the model, right? So like let's say if you're in a sketchy neighborhood, the price points are probably going to be lower. You might have to do a little bit more renovation, right? But if you try to think about how many different ways you can kind of make money, one thing that's becoming more popular is something called co-living, which is similar to like the concept of like rent by the room. Now you could do long-term rentals, rent by the room. You could do midterm rentals, rent by the room, or you can do short-term rentals, rent by the room. There's even things where there's even things called like crash pads, which is literally that concept is for like flight attendants and flight crews near airports, and people will even just do like 2 bunk beds in one room, right? And it's there for like a short term or midterm rental stay, right? And sometimes you don't even have to provide bedding; those are called cold beds. If you do provide bedding and pillow and all that stuff, that's a warm bed, right? And if you think, if someone is paying up to like $300 to $500 per bed, and you have 4 of those in one room, and it's a 3 bedroom house somewhere in an airport. Like we have airports that are like we have Newark Airport, that's in Newark, New Jersey, which is a sketchy neighborhood, right? The people that are doing that are making, I don't know what they bought their property for, but they're probably making 10 grand a month for like a property maybe that they purchased for like $400,000, right? So
Right.
it all comes down to like there's so many different ways to invest and so many different strategies, a lot of backup strategies, right? Like, if you want to go into short-term rentals, try to see what could it also be a midterm rental. Could you do co-living? Could you do something else, rent by the room? Also, like how would it perform on the long-term rental side? There's just so many different ways to go about it that your ability to be resourceful and see what's out there is going to help you to make your investing journey earlier, regardless of the neighborhoods that you in. You could do very well in the A class neighborhoods, super well in A class neighborhoods, right? But you could also crush it in Newark, New Jersey, right? It just depends on like how you're going to go about generating the income.
So
Personally,
Philip,
I would never do a war zone type of area. My brother made that mistake, and he was trying to do a condo in a war zone area, and he failed miserably because he constantly was having to kick people out and renovate and fix all the damage to the property. So it was a losing proposition all the time for him, and it kind of drove him out of doing real estate. Now he's does other businesses, so he does very well. However, real estate just really isn't the thing for him because of the bad taste he got from doing it wrong. But when you go into an area that is a sketchy area to begin with, and you're dealing with almost an apartment type situation, you're going to get the worst type of tenant that probably isn't vetted very well, probably doesn't have the best credit, is going to be habitually late and damage the property. So all of those are working against you. So I won't invest in those types of areas, but like you said, everybody is making money somewhere somehow. So it's doable. It's just figuring out the right strategy for the right area.
Before we go on, I want to address Flavio making trouble again as usual. He's trying to talk bad about the area that I invest in Pittsburgh. He's trying to say you need a bulletproof vest to walk around in those neighborhoods. But Philip, don't listen to Flavio. But anywhere you invest, there can be bad areas. But that's also why you want to get with people that are investing in certain markets or people in your community so that you can kind of piggyback off of their network or their system and they can maybe navigate you from staying away from those certain areas. But Philip did say he has a three-bedroom, two bath in his area, just went for 1.2 million, which is considered cheap here. He's in a not wealthy area. Prices are out of control here. Yeah, prices are pretty high in a lot of areas. Hey, what's up, Dennis? Dennis is tuning in. So, Dennis, if I know you're new or checking in new to the live today, but I did put James's. He has a free school community going on right now for midterm rental, arbitrage, co-hosting, and whatnot. So if you're interested in that, go check it out. I asked Philip what the rent would be, so he said 550 to 600 a week. So what is that? 2,400 a dang, 2,400 a month for a 1.2. Man, so as you can see, Philip, well, I don't know what type of financing you folks have in Australia, but chances are, you're going to be losing money every month in a sense, right? So, but that's why, something like that, James and John would try to short-term rental it or mid-term rental that property to generate more cash flow to cover their expenses and still make money per month.
You know, like no matter what country you're in, there are always real estate investors, right? Properties are not always owned by homeowners for their primary homes, right? So um, there's there's a lot of people that are investing in all types of different communities and areas, right? I mean, I know Canada is pretty like crazy too, but not to try to compare, but there's always ways that people are doing well and making things work. And so if people are able to make things work, maybe it just means that we haven't met them yet or we don't know what their strategies are and how they have gone, you know, to do that. So I would say, again, just going out to real estate investing meetups and finding the people that are doing well and doing what they're doing, right? Like I bought a property like during COVID when it was impossible to buy because everyone's going 100K, 200K over the same day. And you had to put an offer in the same day that it went live. You couldn't even tour the property, right? I bought a property during that time when the interest rates were low. And then I also bought a property a year and a half ago when the rates were at a peak, when people were also like, "Oh, this is impossible to buy," right? So the fact that I bought when the market and the rates were low and high just means that you just have to start thinking a little bit differently and tapping into other people that have done it, because there's always a way. There's always a way. Maybe we just don't know how at our current stage. Right?
Another thing that Philip might think about doing is, trying to save the money that he would normally be spending on a mortgage and increase that so that he can build up enough money to purchase another property. And then he's got the property that he owns now that he could use for a rental and purchase another primary. That way he can get into some lower interest rates, possibly house hack that property.
All right. Well, so Philip, hopefully, yeah, go check out John's YouTube channel, Deconstructing Dreams. Go subscribe there, and also hopefully see you in the school community. So here's James's free community. in school platform and James's Instagram page and their Stellar Housing Solutions. You can see more about their midterm rentals and what they offer. And then, yeah, like I said, Philip, if you are interested for $20 a month, come check out the One Rental at a Time school community. It's an awesome place. You see a lot of different investors, and like James mentioned, some the co-living strategy. We do have some people in there doing rent by the room, and they've been on Pace Morby's channel recently, Michael Zuber's channel, talking about that strategy with pad split and whatnot. And a lot of people do see that as maybe the next wave because. Even to your point, Philip, housing is getting expensive, and this is some way for people to find living situations by renting out rooms in people's places. So, but yeah, anything else you guys want to touch on before we wrap things up?
Well, I heard a stat that is rather interesting from the Federal Reserve that the average American has hit over $1 million net worth. However, that is strongly skewed by high value individuals. So if you take the median instead of the average, that number drops all the way down to 192,000 net worth. So, your best bet is to continue, with whatever strategy, like whether it's investing with the stocks or doing the real estate or crypto or whatever you're into, just keep working towards a better future. So, never just go on autopilot and think that that's gonna save you in your retirement.
I think for me, I'm just gonna say it's easy to have self-limiting beliefs, and we only know what we know. But there's a lot of people that are doing very well. So our ability to like network and have community around people that are successful is what's gonna help us go towards where we want to be, and it's gonna kind of separate you from everyone else. So I'm just gonna say you need to find community, and at the end of the day, that's what's gonna make or break a lot of our journeys. And I'm just gonna say that, yeah, go seek community. You can do it. You can do it.
Yeah, to that point, Philip. So you are talking about how housing is getting expensive and there's bidding wars on rentals. So if you look at it from the other standpoint, it almost seems like you want to figure out how to get into real estate in your market because, like you're saying, values are going up. There's a lot of demand for rentals. So, rental prices are probably increasing. So if you can figure out and find people investing in your area, you might be able to do well because it seems like there is a demand in your market. So that might be one way to go about it is find someone in your area that is investing close to you. Flavio, yeah, Flavio, reminding everyone if you are in the school community, this Sunday, Zuber is going live with the three amigos, three great investors, Michael Zuber, Dion Financial Talk, and Lumberjack Landlord. Yeah, so come check it out. Like I said, if the links didn't work, message me on Instagram or YouTube, and I'll send you James's link for the school community and a link for one rental at a time if you need it. But everyone, thanks for tuning in this Saturday, and have a good rest of the weekend, everyone. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.